Now, as a prerequisite to this video, this is a different type of video, and it's going to be easy for someone who has never watched this channel before to think that I'm coming on here and like bragging or trying to sound special or whatever in this video. But I'm not at all, actually. It's the opposite. The way that I've always approached this channel has been from the perspective of, I assume that a lot of MMA fans are basically exactly like me. And so I'm just going to treat this from that perspective. Like, I'm just basically talking to a bunch of people that are extraordinarily similar to me, who love this sport like I do. And anything else doesn't really matter. And the more that I did the channel and the more success that I saw and growth, the more I realized like, oh, this is going to work. Like, this is actually going to work. And then I realized like, I'm probably going to end up knowing all these guys that I was a fan of, right? Like, I'm going to end up in the same rooms as these guys. I'm going to end up knowing them personally and so on and so forth. And that has also become the case in many cases. But I didn't know when I would end up meeting Dana White. I didn't know when I would meet some of like these bigger guys that like that I'm huge fans of. Now, obviously, I know Mike Bisping and what, but like Jorge Masvidal, one of my favorite fighters in the world. Absolutely has always been one of my favorite fighters in the world. Even before he went on his run, I've always loved George Masvidal, always. And Dana White is my business hero. Okay, like I can't stress that enough. I know I've talked about this a million times on the channel, but if you're new to the channel, you never really heard me talk about Dana White. I just want to, and I know he takes a lot of heat in the, you know, just in the, I don't know, in the ether of this, the MMA kind of whatever, like combat sports world. But to me, as an entrepreneur who has built multiple companies, right? I always look at Dana and I'm like, that is the pinnacle of what can be accomplished, which is not just success building something that you care about, like that you deeply care about. He's a combat sports guy, and he built the most successful combat sports organization of all time, but also set himself up to where he can say and do whatever he wants. Like, he is my business hero. I would do anything to be in business with Dana, regardless of what I would have. Honestly, I would have partnered on Slap League. I hate Slap League, but I would have partnered on Slap League if given the opportunity to do business with Dana. And I always knew that I was going to meet him. I didn't really know what the circumstances were going to be. And now that I do know what those circumstances are, I'm like almost overwhelmed, because I'm going to UFC Miami and I'm going as the personal guest of Masvidal and Dana, indirectly, but kind of directly, because, and I'll explain exactly how that came about. I'm going to meet both of them while we're there. And yeah, life is about who you know. I cannot stress this enough. I can't stress it. You know what? I'll get into all of that, right? But if you haven't ever subscribed to this, like if you haven't ever seen this video, what are you talking? Jesse, are you all right? Not really. I'm sick. I'm trying to pretend like I'm not sick. You're sick. Yes, I'm sick. My kids bring home illness all the time. So do you think you can do the video and not sound like an idiot? I already feel like I sound like an idiot. Well, let's just keep going with it and see how it looks. Okay, cool. So if you are new to this channel, the policy that I share with the viewers is, if you're going to watch more than one of my videos, I ask that you subscribe to the channel. We're grown-ups here. I see my analytics. The majority of my viewers are grown-ups. And so I ask other grown-ups. I work really hard on this channel. All I ask in return for watching my content for free is just subscribe to the channel. That's it. Subscribe to the channel once. You don't have to worry about it. If you want to know when I upload, hit the bell, do all notifications, and make sure that notifications are turned on with YouTube, and then you'll know every time I upload, which is every single day. But please subscribe if you're going to watch my content. I appreciate it. And like the video if you like the video. And I genuinely appreciate the support, because it's the only reason I'm in the position that I'm in, although that doesn't necessarily apply to this story, but whatever, we'll get into it. So anyway, like I said, you know, I didn't have any contacts in the UFC when I first started the channel. I had a lot of contacts in other sports because of, you know, my background in business, building a fantasy sports company. I knew a lot of people on the Warriors and so on and so forth. But like, the UFC is the thing. I haven't missed an event since 2001. Not one pay-per-view event. Not one. Not a single pay-per-view event since 2001. Not one. Okay? That's how much I love this sport. So what is that? 22 years? 22 years. And I've paid for every single one. Everyone. Unless I was going to somebody's house and I paid them some money, or I went to like Hooters and I gave them the door money. I've paid for every single one. I've never stolen an event. So anyway, I mean, look, like, life is about who you know. And so going into this strategically, as I started making the videos and all that stuff, I always think about networking, because every single thing I've ever done in my life has been through a relationship that I had. And so as I've done these videos, I have tried to be as honest and straightforward as possible without insulting anyone, right? Like, I don't want to insult anyone. I don't want to have problems with people. I don't want to have problems with anybody. you know, and I'm not talking like other YouTubers. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking, I mean, but that also applies too. No one has ever made money, you know, in like any kind of like business engagement through an enemy. Now you can grow by building enemies and then become relevant that way. But I'm talking about like, if you're going to actually do business with someone, having enemies is the enemy of progress and it's the enemy of success. So I always try to make friends. Friends equal money, friends equal opportunity. That is the way that I've always approached things since I, you know, kind of made that realization. And so I've tried to never insult anyone, especially not Dana, especially not Jorge Masvidal, and especially not people like that who I am a genuine fan of. And so, again, through the lens of life is who you know, Mike McDaniel is the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Very, very close friend of mine. And family friends. Like his wife is like, we're like, our families are friends. Like when we go to Miami, we stay at their house. When they come to, I mean, well, we both lived in the Bay Area when he was the Niners coach, and we used to sleep at each other's houses. Our kids know, our kids know them as like Uncle Mike and Aunt Katie. Like they're like our really, really close friends. And so Gabrielle and I were out on Saturday night, and I was like, I'm sorry, I take that back. Earlier in the night, I was live streaming, and someone on here, one of you guys, was like, "Hey, are you going to UFC Miami?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think we're gonna go." And I don't know how this hadn't dawned on me, but I was like, wait a minute, it's off season for the Dolphins. I wonder if Mike and Katie could go. So I texted Mike, and normally Mike, literally the guy has his cell phone, no joke, probably 20% of the time. I mean, probably less than that actually, because throughout the NFL season, he does not have a phone. He has a work phone. He has no personal anything. Like he is NFL all the way. That is how he became an NFL head coach. So I texted him though, because it's off season, and he responded very quickly. And I was like, "Hey, dude, you guys want to go to UFC when it's in Miami in April?" And he's like, "What's the date?" I was like, "April 8th." He talked to Katie, and like 5 seconds later, he's like, "We're in." And I was like, "Oh my God." He's the Dolphins coach, dude. You know, he's the Dolphins coach. Now, I always kind of struggle with this because they're just like our friends. I've watched, out of the last like 9 Super Bowls, I've watched 5 of them with him. Like they're like in person, we're like family friends. And so I always like struggle with it because whenever my friends come around, you know, like, cause I have a circle of friends that are also kind of, you know, close with them, but like any kind of like exterior friends that we're friends with, and they come around, they melts their brain that he's there. And they ask him a million, like, you know, fanboy NFL questions. It's hilarious. He loves talking about football though. So once that dawned on me, I'm like, okay, sick. I'm like, I'm going to buy us tickets. And I was on the site, and I'm looking, I'm like, okay, well, we obviously have to get awesome tickets. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. I was like, why would we buy awesome? He's the head coach of the Dolphins. It's UFC Miami. Why on earth would we buy tickets when he could probably call someone and like, I mean, because they obviously want him to be there. They probably want him to put him right at the front for the pay-per-view. And they're like, here's the head coach of the Dolphins, Mike McDaniel. Right. So I just texted, I was like, listen, I literally just thought of this right now. So like, I'll buy the tickets. We're ecstatic to come. But you being the head coach of the fucking Dolphins, like, is there someone you can hit up to see if you can get tickets? And he was like, hold, please. And he's like, I only know one UFC fighter, and it's Masvidal. And I was like, okay, well, that's probably a good person to hit up since he's fighting on the card. He didn't even know he was fighting. He's like, oh, nice, dude. All right. He's like, hold tight. So 5 minutes later, he texted me back, and he was like, hey, so good news. We're going, and we're going to be the personal guests of George Masvidal. I was like, come on. He's like, yeah, no, George Masvidal is getting us 4 tickets. I was like, come on. He's like, I'm serious. I was like, let's go, son. And Gabby and I were about to go out on date night. So I was talking to, I'm like, I basically assume that anyone I've done a bunch of videos about has seen my content. And obviously I did a bunch of stuff about George and Colby's beef being fake, so that's kind of embarrassing. But nonetheless, hopefully and I was very careful thinking, okay, George and Colby are definitely going to see this. I want to do this in a way where they're not going to hate me no matter what, right? And hopefully he didn't land on some random clip where he's like, I remember you, guy. So Gabby and I get ready. We're headed out. We're like getting in the car, and McDaniel texts me, hey, you know who's lining up our tickets? I was like, who? He's like, Dana White. I was like, come on. He's like, he literally just texted me asking for my full name, email, and the names of the people that are going. He's like, so yeah, it's Dana's getting us lined up. So apparently we're gonna meet him too. And I was like, So think about that story if you're me, okay? Like, I love this sport so much that I've dedicated, I mean, this is like, I mean, obviously this is like this channel is not like the be all end all, you know, I make some money on here, but it's not like I'm like, oh my God, I'm set for life. This is obviously a launching pad for where I'm trying to get to, but like 3 years of work dedicated to this channel, talking about MMA every single day because I love it that much. So put yourself in my position and just think about that. I'm going to UFC Miami with our close, super, super, super good friends that we never get to see anymore because he's the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. We're staying at their house, and then we're going to the UFC, and our tickets are being held there for our friends by Dana and George Masvidal, who are inevitably going to put us in a section where they can put the pay-per-view camera on Mike McDaniel because he's the head coach of the Dolphins, and that's a huge, I mean, I guess I could potentially be wrong about that, but if you are producing a piece of content and you have the head coach of the Dolphins, coming to the show, pretty sure you probably want to put that on the pay-per-view to make it seem like it's a really big event, right? So I was trying to think about who could be in the crowd that would be a bigger deal in Miami that more people would want to come up and like say what's up to than Mike McDaniel. I'm pretty much drawing a blank unless their name is George Masvidal. So yeah, so that is the environment that we are going to see UFC 287 in. And listen, there is nothing that makes me happier in the world than playing second fiddle to my boy Mike McDaniel, because I'll sit right next to him and just be like, man, you're a big deal here, huh? Because he does not like, he does not give a single solitary fuck about that stuff, like at all. At all. I can't stress that enough, dude. If you ever meet them, if you ever meet Mike and Katie, don't come at them with like any kind of like hot celebrity shit. Like, they do not give a fuck about that. All he cares about is football. That's it. Like, you're not going to impress him with that stuff. You will only turn him off. He'll be like, oh, okay, cool. But, and Katie hates it even more. But now me though, going to a UFC event, getting to sit next to him, pretty excited about that. Gabrielle, I'm like, we were talking about it all night, and we're like, so what does Gabrielle wear, dude? And I just did this video. I just did the video about Dana and bringing my wife around Dana, dude. It's so funny, dude. Like, it's so, what are the fucking odds of that? Seriously, like, what are the fucking odds of that? What are the odds of that? I literally just did the video about bringing my wife around Dana. And what day was that? Like Wednesday or Thursday? And then on Saturday, I find out that I'm going to UFC 287 as a guest of Dana White with my, with McDaniel. It's like, I don't know, man. If you're going to try to talk me out of the fact that we're living in a simulation, good luck, dude. Good luck. Because my life is a simulation. Maybe your life's not, but my life is a simulation of some kind. I really hope George wins, man. I love Gilbert Burns, but I would never root against George. And also, oh my God, dude. Masvidal's entrance, I've already told you guys before I even knew I was going, Masvidal's entrance was the best entrance I've ever been at live. And we're going to be there when he comes out to that in Miami. And we're going to be somewhere, I would imagine, probably in the same section as all the big ballers. And, man, listen, it's going to be a good night, dude. It's going to be a good night. The only thing is that, when you go to these fights on the East Coast, the main card doesn't even start till 10 p.m. So, like, the fight ends, it's 2, So there's not like there's going to be a lot of room to do a bunch of stuff, but I don't know. I don't even know. Mike and Katie live in Fort Lauderdale, too, so I don't even know how close that is to where the stadium is. But anyway, it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be a good time. I just figured I would share that with you guys because I figured that you guys are all my friends, and so you could understand how giddy I would be. I'm a grown up, dude. I have 3 kids. And I don't think I could exaggerate how excited I am for this event. So anyway, that's what I got. Love you guys.